thought I must be seeing things. Maybe it was a vision or something like a mirage. My first thought was that the stress of the last few days had taken its toll on my reasoning powers. But then, the figure spoke. I heard a real voice. Peace be with you. And his eyes moved from one to the other. It was an audible voice. I mean, yeah, I could hear it. The others heard it too. You could tell from the way they reacted. Then, Jesus turned to me and gently said, Thomas, put your finger here. See? My hands. Now reach out and put your fingers into my side. It really is me. Let yourself believe. Let yourself believe. I gasped. It was him. It was our Lord. Now I had seen him too. I had seen him with my own eyes. I had seen his wounds. I had touched them. It was him, all right. He was alive. He was truly alive. My Lord was alive. I am touched, so you may feel all hearts are this you want to as free.
When Jesus said to Thomas, "Reach out and put your hand in my side," he was obviously addressing Thomas's unbelief. But was there even more that he was trying to teach him? The word Jesus uses in inviting Thomas's touch was not the hapto he had used when speaking to Mary. With Thomas, he uses a different word for touch. He uses the word sellopheo, a word which implies more a feeling over than a mere touch. A movement of the hands over the surface so as to feel it, the way a blind person might run his or her hands over the face of another in order to see them. The use of the word sellopheo, with all it implies, opens up the possibility that when Jesus said to Thomas, "Touch me," he was in effect saying, "But don't just touch me. Feel me, like a blind man would feel me. I want you to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that it is really me. I am alive." With Thomas's joyous declaration of belief, we are tempted to heave a sigh of relief, close the book, and consider the story finished. But my friends, the story doesn't end there. In fact, that is where the story begins. Jesus' invitation to touch me given to Thomas is only the prologue. We are the ones who are called to carry the action of the story forward, for Jesus' invitation is to us as well. It is an invitation to reach out, to allow ourselves to become vulnerable, to risk touching and being touched by one another. Touch me and see. Touch me in the hungry, in the thirsty, in those who need shelter and clothing, in the sick, in the wounded in spirit. Touch me, my people. Touch me.
Jesus continued to appear to people in startling and amazing ways, such as this encounter on the road to Emmaus.
When we left Jerusalem for Emmaus that day, the afternoon wind had already come up, sending bits and pieces of sand and dirt whirling. Emmaus was only 7 miles away, but just as we suspected, wind was making it an unpleasant journey.
We pulled the hoods of our garments up around our faces to protect them from the sting of the wind-driven dust, and walked along in silence for quite a while. We both seemed to need to think, time to sort things out. So many unexpected things had happened.
We were still in a state of shock. Jesus was dead. We heard the rumor that Mary had seen him alive. We didn't know what to think. My wife was right. We certainly needed this time apart from the others, to think things through.
About a mile down the road, while we were rehashing the events of the past few days, we suddenly became aware that a stranger had joined us. We had no idea how long he'd been walking with us. The sound of the wind and the flying particles of dust and dirt had made it best to keep our faces covered and our eyes on the road. We could have easily drifted off the road and lost our way if we had been not watching carefully.
We figured he must have been a visitor to Jerusalem, for it seemed he knew nothing of the news that was traveling through the city like wildfire, the news that Jesus had been crucified. It became obvious that he was a learned man, for as we walked, telling him what had happened, he responded by explaining the prophecies regarding the coming of the Messiah to us. We approached the village just as dusk was about to descend, but it appeared as though he was going to continue on with his journey. Neither my wife nor I wanted our conversation to end. His wisdom and his knowledge were breathtaking. When would we ever again have the opportunity to learn from so brilliant a scholar? We gladly offered him shelter for the night, and we were so happy when he agreed to stay.
I found the stillness and warmth of the house to be a welcome change from the cold and windy night, and I quickly went about preparing a simple supper for us and our guest. When everything was ready, we gathered around the rough-hewn table. I couldn't help but notice the way in which the light from the lantern flooded the table's surface and framed the stranger.
While we were talking, the stranger raised his hand to emphasize a point, and in the light, I saw what looked like a nail print in his hand, and my heart started to pound. Was it my imagination, or could I be seeing what I thought I was seeing? Then almost in the same moment, our eyes fell upon the bread there on the table before him, the bread which he had just broken. And in a blinding moment, we knew the figure framed by the light was our Lord, the crucified one.
But as soon as we recognized him, he disappeared. He just disappeared. I don't mean that he got up from the table and walked out of the room. I mean he disappeared. He literally disappeared. He was with us for such a short time, but in that moment we knew neither of us would ever be the same again.
To all you see.
no mistake, when you encounter the risen Christ on your journey, you too will be forever changed. Once again, Jesus appeared to the disciples, this time on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. Simon Peter, Thomas, nicknamed the Twin, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the brothers Zebedee, and 2 other disciples were together. Simon Peter, feeling antsy and hoping to break away from the others, announced, "I'm going fishing." But just his luck, the rest chimed in, "We'll go with you." And without another word, they all climbed into the boat. Skilled fishermen, they were surprised when they caught nothing that evening. At sundown, they gave up and bedded down for the night.
It was a calm night, and the boat rocked gently back and forth. Any other night, the movement would have lulled us to sleep, but we were all so on edge that most of us tossed and turned the whole night. And when the sun came up, we just sat there, looking out over the sea, wondering what we should do next. Suddenly, John saw a figure standing there on the beach.
Good morning. Did you catch anything?
Thomas hollered back, "No, not a blessed thing."
Well, throw the net off to the right side of the boat and just see what happens.
The stranger yelled. I can tell you that prompted a tense moment in the boat. Both the Zebedee brothers were highly insulted. What does a shorebird like this guy know about fishing? He obviously has a lot of nerve telling us how we should be doing things. Obviously, he doesn't know that we're skilled fishermen. He doesn't know that that's how we make our living, after all. We know better than anyone else what we're doing. We know where to drop our nets. We know how long to leave them out and what time of day is best. Well, both the brothers were not only headstrong, but hot-tempered and impulsive as well. We were so used to their impetuous responses, we took them with a grain of salt. So Nathanael and I paid them no mind and quickly set out to lowering the nets on the right side of the boat, as the stranger recommended. Perhaps he knew this part of the lake better than we did. Anyway, it was worth a chance. What did we have to lose? We had barely lowered the net into the water when instantly there were so many fish in it, we couldn't pull it up over the edge of the boat. We were all in such a state of stunned disbelief when I heard a voice say, "Simon, Simon, it's the master. I tell you, it's the master." My gut told me he was right. And without hesitation, I threw on the clothing I'd taken off and began to work and dove headfirst into the sea, swimming for the shore as fast as I could. As soon as the other disciples saw me enter the water, they turned the boat around and headed directly for shore, pulling along the net full of fish. When we all reached the shore, we saw the stranger had started a fire and already had fish and bread cooking on it. Seeing our surprise, he just grinned and said, "Come, bring some of the fish you caught and let us add them to the fire." Well, together we pulled out the net to shore and counted 153 big fish. Now, I know you've heard of fish tales and how fishermen always exaggerate not only the size of their catch, but the size of the fish as well. But honest to goodness, I'm not exaggerating this time. When Jesus told us, "Breakfast is ready," not one of us even thought to wonder any longer who he was. We all knew it was indeed our master. With everyone gathered around him, Jesus took the bread from the fire and, breaking off generous chunks from the loaf, he began to pass them around to all of us. He did the same with the fish.